Debate is not debate
if it's not on the Great Debaters Contest. Thank you for tuning in to watch the best entertainment platform in debate. I am your host, Chris Boru.
And I am Esperancia Kapanga. The motion on the table today is governments should consider negotiating with terrorists for national security.
In the proposition, we have Mpesa Foundation Academy.
In the opposition, we have Alliance High School. Proposer number 1, you have 3 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Daisy Chepkuri from Mpesa Foundation Academy, proposing the motion that states governments should consider negotiating with terrorists for national security, starting with the definition of terms. A government is a group of people with the authority to rule a country or state or a particular ministry or office. This includes security ministries. A negotiation, therefore, is a discussion aimed at reaching an agreement. A terrorist is a person who uses unlawful violence and intimidation, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims. National security, the safety of a nation against threats such as terrorism, war, and espionage. Consider means looking alternatively at something. It is just an alternative, not something that is a must. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Most terrorist organizations are not engaged in violence for personal gain or benefits. Some of them stand at a particular position in the political institution. For example, the African National Congress in South Africa. For a long time, they were looked at as a terrorist organization. But for the blacks, they were their freedom fighters. They were fighting for what they wanted. And this was recorded in history only after a negotiation, and the wants of the ANC was found out. And it was actually something important, something that would have helped South Africa to grow. Any government's primary responsibility is to save lives. History shows that military solutions have a little chance of succeeding. This is because when the government is at a higher position in solving conflicts than the terrorists. So how can the government fight a fire with fire cannot cool down? When oil is boiling, you add water to it for it to cool. The terrorists are angry. They are demanding for things that the government doesn't know. Why can't the government give them that chance? Listen to them, negotiate with them, know what they want, so that the country can be able to go forward. Maybe whatever they want is actually important. It's just that they've not been given a chance to air it. The Great Debaters Contest advocates for the SDGs. SDG number 16 is peace, justice, and strong institutions. The judges can confirm with me that they're at the top of that. But then, how can we have this peace, justice, and strong institutions when in my lifetime, I've seen the Garissa attack, the Westgate Mall attack? Do you know how much it hurt to see people losing their lives? I'm not even assured of my future life just because of these terrorists. But negotiating, if at all the government had decided to go down, listen to these terrorists, get their views, know the reason why they're not having they're terrorizing the people. Maybe then we would have been able to solve these issues, because using force on the terrorists is actually fighting fire with fire, which ignites more fire. Thank you.
First proposer, you have 3 minutes to make your case.
Ladies and gentlemen, we asked for light. They took away the electricity. David Philip, Alliance High School, here ready to strongly oppose this motion. Now on to the definition of terms. What is a government? A government is a group of people who are responsible for the controlling of a country or a state. And what is a negotiation? A negotiation is simply a formal agreement between two people that comes through formal discussion. In short, what they are trying to say about negotiation is simply this. When I grew up, I never got a chance to have a pet. True story, by the way, yeah? You see, my dad was never the pet lover guy. So one day, a stray cat came into our house. And so I thought, oh my goodness, God has finally answered my prayer. I can finally own a cat. So I gave it food. So the next day, here's the funny part of the story, my dear friends. The cat came back with 2 of his friends. And without knowing it, I had a whole bed of cats, and I was no longer sleeping on my own bed. Who are the cats in this situation? The cats in this situation are the terrorists. Who's a terrorist? A person who takes part in terrorism. And what is terrorism? The use of violent means in order to achieve political aims and for the government to heed to your demands. What is national security? National security is simply a state of a country attaining internal and external peace. Let us not think just twice, but also think wise. We are empowering terrorists. For how long? Look at it, for example, in the United States, the Reagan scandal. The Reagan administration went ahead to free 7 American hostages being held in Lebanon by Hezbollah paramount groups just because they wanted them back. And in exchange, guess what they gave them? They gave these people military weapons. Look at it then. 6 months later, we had the Minnesota attack. Look at it then. 12 months later, we had Washington, D.C., the capital, having bombings, having shootouts. We all know that the truth is you can never go to a tiger and expect to play a cat game with it. Terrorists never comply. Look, for example, the Boko Haram. The Boko Haram, even after negotiating with the Nigerian government, they went ahead, captured 250 teenage girls. They asked for 200 million Kenyan shillings and 200 million United States dollars. That is actually 20 billion Kenyan shillings. That's finding accounting, trust me. And later on, after their demands were met, what did they do? They only let go 200 girls. In short, they had 50 more as an insurance policy in case the government, the banks ran away. I mean, even their own leader, Abu Bakr Sheikham, I mean, this guy is literally the 8th wonder of the world. I mean, this guy has died more times and resurrected more times than Jesus has. Trust me. He's died and resurrected 7 times. This is the guy you want to go and put all your trust in. The truth is, if you're saying yes to biological warfare, if you're saying yes to innocent murders, bombings, then you need to think wise. Not just wise. SDG number 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. Thank you.
Second proposer, you have 3 minutes to cross-examine.
Ladies and gentlemen, Enoch Samuel from the Mpesa Foundation Academy, praising the motion. You talk about complying with terrorists. Have you given them a chance to know what they want? Of course, no. Give them then now. Just to involve you in a very small activity, but God forbid it will be painful. Close your eyes and imagine waking up tomorrow in the morning, switching your television to Citizen TV, only to find a live stream of the footage of Judge Minor being kidnapped. Of course, you can't close your eyes because you can't imagine. Too painful. But ladies and gentlemen, should average citizens suffer because there is a war between the government and terrorists? I guess no. Let me give you a trip to Colombia. Ever heard of Pablo Escobar? A narco trafficker who used to traffic cocaine to US. But what happened after the extradition of this drug trafficking in Colombia? He launched political warfare, kidnapping. Was this the right thing? Were we supposed to suffer? Yes, no. But the resolution was, then go back to him, talk to him. What is this that makes him to do this? And the thing was very simple. He had a life sentence. He was not saying no to life sentence. But he wanted a luxurious prison of his own design after being given. Is he killing people today? No. A solution was found. Again, how much is used for a negotiation method to deal with terrorists? Just to take you to the same America that the opposers are talking about. Do you know that in 2011, they spent $1 trillion? But the fascinating paradox is that in 2018, they spent 5.6. That is America. What about a country like Kenya? What about the 46% of the developing countries in our world? Do they have to suffer? I guess no. Ladies and gentlemen, let us talk about what is happening today in Kenya. Have you heard of the Cuban doctors who are currently kidnapped by Al-Shabaab? We get help from countries like US, like China. They are watching at whatever step Kenya will take. Now, if we decide we are going to use one of the methods which have failed, that is force, and then they are killed, do you think we are going to get any other help? I guess no. Education. and all other sectors of human development will live to be a dream. This is the only method that affirms the value of a human being in our society. Take an instance of if the Cuban doctors were released today, what would happen? Others would come in. It will give you time then to decide what are we going to do. And for that case, as you arrest your case, I rest my case. Thank you.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for cross-examination.
My name is Joseph Joachim Gishar from the Alliance High School, and I stand in front of you here today to strongly oppose this motion that says government should consider negotiating with terrorists for national security. First and foremost, I would like to start by opposing their points. Well, he said that we should give the terrorists a chance. I would like to take you back into history. In 1988, the Spanish government was negotiating with the Basque rebels. Well, these two sides could not compromise and therefore could not reach a stalemate. One day, the Basque rebels missed a meeting. You know, they had planned to bomb the whole place, and boom, just like that, 21 government officials of the Spanish government dead. And these are the people you are telling us that we should give them a chance and we should listen to them. My dear friend, he mentioned the example of Pablo Escobar of Colombia. Well, I agree, the Colombian government tried to negotiate with Pablo Escobar, but then the long-time solution to the insurgency of Pablo Escobar and his affiliates was reached when Pablo Escobar was eliminated, killed in short. Ladies and gentlemen, he has mentioned the example of Cuban doctors who were kidnapped in Mandera, and their kidnappers have demanded $1.5 million in exchange for these Cuban doctors. Well, I would like to take you to Japan. There are two Japanese, Uruna Yukawa and Kenji Goto, who were abducted by the ISIS. And ISIS demanded 200 million US dollars. That in short is 20 billion Kenyan shillings. Well, according to law, there's a principle called collateral damage. This principle allows for the death of innocent people if the benefit of allowing it supersedes the disadvantages. Well, if you give these terrorists that $1.5 million, they'll be able to enhance their equipment, maybe buy more weapons, which they will use to carry out aggression or attacks in our country, therefore undermining national security. If we negotiate with terrorists, we give legitimacy to terrorism, because one victory attained by terrorists in such negotiations is enough incentive to encourage further aggression by these terrorists, because to them it will be a viable business. Imagine, I just kidnapped 10 people, I tell the government that I require 100 million Kenya shillings, and the government gives it to me, and I give the people back to them in return. Don't you think that this will encourage further aggression and undermine national security? I'll give you an example of Al-Qaeda. According to New York Times in 2014, Al-Qaeda and its affiliates gained more than $125 million in terms of ransom demanded in exchange for hostages from the United States of America. This is 1.25 billion Kenya shillings. They use this to enhance their arsenal, buy trucks, buy tankers, to carry out attacks. And you're telling us that governments should negotiate with such people in order to attain national security? I don't think so. Thank you very much.
The proposers have been asked, would they rather have the people continue suffering as they negotiate with the terrorists or deal with the terrorists immediately? The opposers, on the other hand, have been asked to imagine if their parents were kidnapped, would they still let them die or would they negotiate with the terrorists? Proposer number 3, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Two wrongs never give a right. And fighting evil with evil is not the way. We need negotiation. And I want to put this word clearly. Should consider. We are not saying it's a must. It's just a consideration. Victor, for the sake of families, the government, which provides the army to go and fight the terrorists, should step back and go and negotiate. And through these negotiations, it means that we are going to save so many lives from dying. It's not about military attack all the times. We all need sometimes to go back down to our feet. For instance, we had the French and the Britain. During the world wars, they went to the policy of appeasement. Germans seemed to be very superior, but these two nations just went down to their feet. And do you know what? The world war came to an end. If negotiations worked then, why can't they work in these terms of terrorism? As I was coming, I was seated next to Umi. She comes from Garissa. And she was able to see the Garissa attack, which claimed the lives of very many innocent young people. I feel so sad because these young people were supposed to be the future people who are to build our country. But do you know what? They died because the government didn't give them an ear, didn't give them an opportunity to express their grievances. When Boko Haram and Nigeria came together, and the Nigerian government came together and negotiated, 82 innocent girls were released. If they went to other alternatives, or if they went to military attack, maybe those girls could be dead. But right now, they are alive. That is why we need negotiation. According to WashingtonPost.com, many residents in Somalia said that the use of military attacks has made life hard and insecure. Through negotiations, we are able to read the psychology of these terrorists. And when we are able to read the psychologies, it helps us to go back to the drawing board and come with better alternatives. We cannot fight from a point we don't understand. We need to understand why are they fighting, so that we can come with other alternatives which they are proposing. That is why we need negotiations. If Raila and Kibaki didn't come to the Nusu Mkate in 2008, Kenya will be in troubles. But today we are one because of negotiations. That is why I will stand and I will continue saying that negotiation from time immemorial has proven to be a peaceful method which is lasting. My audience, kindly look at this from a very positive perspective, that we need to come from unknown to the known. Thank you so much.
Third opposer, you have 3 minutes to respond.
I can't help but fathom if the path of a proposition is just to be amused as today. Because, I really wonder, is Germany a terrorist group? Maybe they can tell me. I'm confused. I don't understand how Germany is a terrorist group. Where is it coming from? Also, they're talking about the Boko Haram, who have released some girls, but they've clearly mentioned that some remained. So what are they? Insurance? In case their bank accounts run dry? To them, the government is a gift that keeps on giving. So therefore, why should we negotiate with people who only believe in exploiting us? The proposition is saying that we should give the terrorists what they want. And what do they want? Guns. So, to them, the government should be Santa Claus, giving the terrorists guns on Christmas. Let me give you an example. Let's say I woke up a terrorist today. What do I need? I need guns. But wait, I got that from the Reagan government. I think I need money. I remembered. I got $125 million, which is 12.5 billion shillings, enough to run an army, right? And also, I need a motive, but that's not an issue. I already have one. And I need soldiers. I remembered. The Israeli government gave me 1,000 Hezbollah fighters in return for one hostage. Therefore, don't I have everything that I need to be able to combat these government officials? The opposition are saying, give a tiger food, then go into the cage and see how sharp his teeth are. For how long shall we continue giving our enemy the knife that's constantly stabbing us in the back? For how long, as Kenyans, for instance, shall we continue getting the short end of the stick? Back to the question. They asked me, will you rather negotiate or let your mother get killed? Yes, you can give them money. My mom gets saved, correct? But also you should consider that this is an added incentive for the terrorists to keep on kidnapping people. My uncle, your brother, my sister, your father. So tell me, is it a good thing or a bad thing to encourage them to continue doing this? I'd like also to highlight a point that negotiating with terrorists exposes government's weaknesses. Let me bring you home. In Somalia, the Kenya government has been accused of participating in charcoal trade with Al-Shabaab. So tell me, if you're a soldier from Senegal in AMISOM, fighting in the trenches, tooth and nail against these terrorists, and yet your Kenyan comrade is in the tents, drinking beer, cracking jokes, and minting millions as you watch, and then tell me you will want to continue working with them. So the solution we are saying is that we should use military intervention and we should use propaganda against the terrorists. That is the best solution, not negotiation. And as I conclude, I'd like to leave you the quote from Bill Clinton. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Victor Mugambi, and we're proud to oppose. Thank you.
Proposition, you have 1 minute to sum up your presentation.
Ladies and gentlemen, a government waging a war against terrorists, they never fight the government. Who suffers? It's you, it's me, the civilian, the citizen. If you want to cut a tree in 3 hours, sharpen the axe in 2 hours. What do I mean? If you want to cut the terrorists, sharpen by negotiation in 2 hours. You talk about Germany. Have you forgotten about the Nazis? We are not talking about Germany as a terrorist. No, we are talking as giving an illustration to make you understand how it feels for someone to die. Then, why don't we understand why they are fighting? Yes, you'll give them what they need. But the aim of negotiating is simply creating time to know what do they want. Not just waging a war, you don't know what you are fighting. You are just fighting for the sake of fighting because they are terrorists. Giving an example of the Al-Qaeda, it started in 1988, but in 1989, their founder, Osama bin Laden, known to most of you, wrote a letter saying that it was just because of Muslims, not ready to listen to the Muslims. Let us look for the source. Let us solve from the roots of the tree. I rest my case.
Opposition, you have 1 minute to sum up your presentation.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us not take an emotional stand to this. 1, Muslims are not terrorists. Please, let's not go there. Number 2, the Nazi is a government. Don't make them terrorists. Come on. I mean, look at it. You are here taking an emotional stand, where you had the 1988 Spanish talks with the Basque Homeland and Freedom, and later on, 21 of those people who are negotiating were killed by the so-called people they were going to negotiate with. In short, I come to you, I tell you, I need bread. Then you tell me, I have 20 shillings. Then, when I decide to give you the 20 shillings, you had a friend on my back, he gags me up and takes the 20 shillings and the bread. Then, he runs away with it. Is that what you want? Is that what you want for yourselves? You know, the truth is, we need to think well. You see, my mother once told me that, let us learn from our mistakes. But you see, my wiser grandmother came along and told me, learn from other people's mistakes. Here's where you learn from other people's mistakes. Kevin Colley, the 34th president of America, went ahead and said, we shall not negotiate with terrorists. And turns out, according to the ITU, America was ranked the 4th safest country in the world. Trust me, don't negotiate. Repress and fight these people. Thank you.
The Mpesa Foundation. Daisy, you gave very good definitions, and I believe what you wanted your team to fight on the grounds of, by listening to the terrorists, we get to understand what they really want. And it's like you're saying, most of them really don't want to kill. There's something that they want. So let us give them what they want, and then maybe this brings the end to terrorism. So I love the way Daisy spoke. I also like the fact that you brought in the issue of SDGs at the end. Enoch, you gave the story of Pablo. I also mentioned about the Cuban doctors, and I believe you went ahead to fight for your team in what you believed was right. Then Joyce came, gave a very good closing. I love the way you answered the question. You're a very confident speaker, and also spoke about Boko Haram, spoke about World War, the appeasement policy used on Germany, and also spoke about Boko Haram and said that they were able to leave 73 out of the girls, which I felt to me was okay. So you really fought for your team. Thank you.
Alliance, well, David, great debater, really passionate. I believe you are a tough act to follow. I think I would be afraid to come and debate after you, but I think the rest of the guys who came after you also did some good work. The story about the cat was quite interesting. It connected to what you were trying to bring up. You gave examples like the Boko Haram, really commendable. Joseph, mastery of language, on point. There was also a lot of conviction in your argument. Relevant examples as well, ISIS. Victor, I like that you were also very confident, and you also gave us some alternatives to negotiation. You know, if we won't use negotiation, we can use propaganda, use of the military, etc. So thank you very much for an informative session. All the best to both teams.
To Mpesa Academy, the only thing I would want to add is, you know, we're talking about these people killing people. And so sometimes that essence calls for some element of emotional appeal because life is precious. So you can imagine if you started off by trying to tell us what it means to lose someone. We have lost a lot of people, innocent people, and sometimes you can capture us so much so by even telling us a story of a family that was devastated because of the loss of the people, and we have immense examples. So I thought probably that could have been a place you could have used maximally to really win us off, okay? Nonetheless, you did your best. To Alliance boys, yes, I could tell you came smiling, very well knowing what you came to do, and I appreciate that. David, I like the good, simple reasoning. I have not forgotten about the cat that came out and became a family. That is very good. The delivery is awesome, and it just brings the audience and everybody here to understand what it means to try and negotiate with these guys. Joseph, Mr. President, a good cross-examination, good submissions. I like the examples as well of Al-Qaeda. You also lived up to expectations. Victor, good reasoning as well. I just noticed that you also speak relatively fast. And sometimes when you do that, because that means you also think very fast, you want sometimes to remember you're addressing us, so sometimes you want to, and it's a practice. Sometimes I used to also do the same thing, okay? So sometimes you want to practice that, but you're also a good speaker, very strong for your team. As I said, I'm still torn, and so I wish you all the best. You did great. Thank you so much.
Mpesa Academy. The judges awarded you a whooping 71%. Let's give them a round of applause.
Alliance Boys High School. That was a good debate. However, the judges awarded you 74%, making you the winners of this debate.
Congratulations to Alliance High School for taking the day, but we would also like to appreciate Mpesa Foundation Academy because a great debate takes two teams with heated passion for it to be that good.
Indeed, you could not have said it better. So ladies and gentlemen, the debate may be over, but remember the conversation still continues with the hashtag GDC for SDG. I am your host, Chris Boru.
And I am Esperanza Kapanga. See you in the next debate.